In this video, I'm going to be testing out the Goldenmate 12-volt 100 amp hour lithium battery. I'm going to do that by testing the BMS and the capacity of the battery. The capacity is supposed to be 100 amp hours or 1280 watt hours. The BMS protects this battery from over voltage, reverse polarity, all sorts of things. I'm looking for the discharge protection and the continuous discharge protection. And how fast can we charge this battery and do it safely? Before I go to test out a battery or even to put one in use, I make sure to read the user manual. And we're gonna go over just a little bit, and I'm gonna put this up on screen because a lot of this information is important to you. And the specifications that I'm interested in today on this test is going to be this charge specifications, the discharge specifications, and we'll talk about the temperature specifications also. So for the charge specifications, we got a charge voltage of 14.4 volts with a max of 14.6 volts. That's important, especially when you're using a charge controller. And the standard charge current is going to be 20 amps, and the maximum charge current is going to be 50 amps. The discharge specifications states that this can do 100 amps and the battery will automatically shut down once it reaches 10 volts. Now the next thing I want to do is get the weight. And this battery weighs in at 27.8 pounds. Now let's see the footprint of the battery. 13, 8.5 by 7. Now let's get it hooked up. For everyone that's not aware, I have this set up on a switch. So if something happens, I can turn it off. And I have it connected to a shunt, which this will turn on in a minute. So I can monitor what's going on with the battery. And before we conduct any test on this battery, let's charge it to 100%. The charger that I'm using is a Power Queen 20 amp charger. The charger's kicked off, we got the green light, nothing's running. This battery should be at 100% capacity. So I have the shunt turned on, we're at 100%. This is the number that we're gonna be paying most attention to in this test for the capacity. We need this to be over 100. I turn on our inverter. To conduct this test, I'm going to use this little space heater, and we're going to turn it on the lowest setting, which we're using 70 amps. And it's kind of chilly in the shop, so this is a great idea with the space heater. Like I do in all of my tests, I like to try to overload the BMS right in the middle of a discharge. So we're actually doing kind of an extreme test on these batteries. Some people don't agree with that, but this is a test. This is not how you would use it in real life. But we need to know if these things are protected for users that use it like this in real life. So right now we're on low on the heater. I'm gonna switch it over to high, and you're gonna see that the amps go up well over 100 amps. Next, I'm gonna add in the heat gun. We're gonna turn it on, and we're gonna turn it down to where I want to be around 169 amps, 170. Let's take it on up. Let's see what happens. We're at 255 amps. And I'm going to let it run for a bit. The BMS should shut down in this battery. And this is a lot of power to be pulling out of this battery at one time, because we're going well over what it's rated for. And I'm going to run this until the battery shuts down or it runs everything out of the battery. But I don't think that this should run for a long period of time at 250 amps when the max discharge is supposed to be 100 amps. And the BMS did shut down the battery. Let's see if these cables are hot. Oh yeah, oh yeah. The BMS did protect the battery because what happened here is it ran for so long at over 250 amps that it heated up the internal temperature of the battery and it shut it down. And now we have to wait for that temperature to cool off before everything will turn back on. So as long as everything turns back on, this BMS is working as it should. So the BMS has turned the battery back on and we're good to go. Let's get our little heater turned back on and finish up with our capacity test. And we passed the capacity test with 102.43 total amp hours. And that's discharging at 75 to 80 amps for the entire duration of that test. Also, on top of that, we tossed in 250 amps for probably about 3 to 4 minutes to try to shut off the BMS. So that's an extreme test when you're testing out capacity. It's important to note before I give you my final thoughts on the battery that this does not have a cold temperature sensor installed in the battery that would protect the cells from recharging once it reaches below 32 degrees Fahrenheit outside. Goldenmate is exceeding my expectations on these lithium batteries. At the price that they're offering these at, it's hard to turn them down. And although this battery might not have that cold temperature sensor in it, I personally don't use them because I don't store these batteries or recharge these batteries probably below 40 Fahrenheit in my setting. So for me, it's not important, but for some people, it may be really important and you need to consider that. But overall, that's a solid battery at the price that they're offering it at. I would definitely recommend it as a buy. And if you're interested in that, I'll have a link in the description below.